If you thought Isuzu pickups were a bit rough and ready, it's probably about time you gave the D Max a try. Once, this brand was really one reserved for the requirements of pure commercial operators. In this rejuvenated RG series form though, the D Max will also suit private buyers looking for an all-terrain utility vehicle that can play the lifestyle card, thanks to sharper looks, a smarter cabin and better drive dynamics. But it's still as tough as ever, which is why so many professionals choose this Isuzu. In a marketplace full of pretenders, it's that rarest of things, the genuine article.
Previous D Max models served up a pretty crude driving experience on tarmac, but it's immediately obvious here in this RG series version that the act has been sharpened up a bit. Isuzu has made lots of changes to try to reduce body roll, improve stability and to better absorb vibrations. Plus, the chassis is now stiffer and the brand has at last introduced a modern electric-powered steering rack, and that allows the installation of a class-leading portfolio of camera safety features. No contender in this class, of course, can properly replicate the car-like drive dynamics of an SUV, and in this one there does still remain plenty of body roll at speed through tighter turns as you slide around on these flat-bottom seats. But on the plus side, thanks to all those changes, there's certainly now a lot less back-end floatiness when the load bay's empty, and with a bit of weight in the back there, it's possible at times to forget that you're actually in a pickup until you lurch into a corner or clump over a speed hump, of course. Under the bonnet, this RG series model uses the same 1.9 series turbo diesel power plant as its predecessor. It offers 164 PS and it's capable in auto form of up to 30.7 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 241 grams per kilometre of CO2. Those are class competitive stats. This is a smaller capacity engine than you'll find with direct rivals, and its 360 newton meters of pulling power is lower too, although a 3.5 tonne towing capacity remains. This lighter powertrain though enables the curb weight of this Isuzu to dip below the government's 2,040 kilo weight limit, which separates goods vehicles from passenger cars. So, unlike other pickups in the segment, this one can be driven at passenger car speed limits. The engine is now mated to updated gearboxes. There's a 6-speed manual transmission with a slicker shift and a new ASIN-sourced 6-speed auto. That's the one we have here, and that features much quicker shift times. Refinement is slightly improved, although it's still hardly car-like, and as before, off-road prowess is really impressive. It's helped by a quicker shifting four-wheel drive system, greater suspension articulation and the lockable rear differential that you get on most models. Ground clearance, that's up to 235 mils, and the fording depth has increased to 800 mils. Styling hasn't been a priority for Isuzu pickups in the past, which offered rugged, spherical shapes, big wheels, lots of chrome and not a lot else. But that changes with the more arresting cage fighter style aesthetics of this RG series design. It's enough to deliver quite an overtaking statement and a far more powerful pavement stance. Most of the changes have taken place here at the front, where the chunky, high-riding looks have been embellished with a more imposing front grille, which features a pair of thick chrome bars across its width. Although most customers will want this double cab body style, which is conditional for customers wanting this V-Cross Adventure Range model, Isuzu is also continuing to offer the extended cab variant alongside it in the more affordable mid-level all-purpose range, so think back-to-front rear doors and occasional rear seats. In the base business range, that extended cab variant features alongside the traditional single cab body shape with its much longer cargo bay. All the bodywork is new here. This mid-level belt line 30mm higher, while the body length of this double cab variant has shrunk by 30 mils over the previous D Max, and that's compensated for by a wheelbase length increase of, you've guessed it, 30mm. Time to take a seat behind the wheel. A well-positioned step and grab handle ease entry into the cab. And once inside, well, what a difference, driven by customer feedback, which told Isuzu in no uncertain terms that a more comfortable cabin was required this time around. There's still the high-set driving position, which is typical of a pickup in this class, but everything else has changed. Most notably, perhaps, the D Max has entered the era of screen tech. There's a 4.2-inch display that flanks these analog dials in this redesigned instrument cluster here. And for plusher DL40 and V-Cross models, the centre stack has gained a modern touchscreen, which will be either 7 or, as in this case, 9 inches in size, and which includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. All-round visibility is not bad for a pickup. The seats are far more supportive now, and there's plenty of cabin storage. What's it like for rear passengers in this double cab model? Once inside, there's slightly more passenger comfort than is provided by some rival models. That's thanks to the increase in wheelbase length we mentioned earlier, all of which has been used to the benefit of rear-seated folk. There's certainly a little more legroom than there was previously, and as before, there's some decent room for head and shoulders. You'll also appreciate the way that the seat back angle has been slightly changed to make the backrest rather less vertically inclined, which gives noticeably greater comfort on longer journeys. One nice touch is the way that twin storage areas under this 60-40 split rear seat base enable you to more flexibly use this rear passenger space for packages if you wish. You lift this little flap here on each side. Plus you can also pull down the rear seat backrest. That prevents the upholstery from getting grubby when you're carrying pets or packages, and flattening this uncovers the vehicle jack and toolkit. Right, let's take a look at the load bay area. If you've used the D Max in the past, the first thing you'll notice is that Isuzu has now added a damper to the tailgate so it doesn't fall open as soon as you release it. The thing is still pretty heavy to lift though. A big step has been moulded into the bumper so that reaching in is a little easier, and 30 millimetres of extra cargo depth has been added into the bay, although the resulting 465mm depth figure is still comfortably the least accommodating in the class. The 1495mm load bay length of this double cab is also bettered by the Toyota Hilux at 1525mm, the long wheelbase SsangYong Musso at 1600mm, and the Ford Ranger at 1613mm. Obviously you'll gain more load bay length with the alternative 2 D Max body styles. The extended cab offers 1805mm and the single cab has 2315mm. As with this Isuzu's 3 key segment rivals, there's enough load bay width, 1530mm, to take a standard UK-sized pallet lengthways between the wheel arch intrusions. And this area meets the usual pickup class qualification that it should be able to take over a ton of weight. With this top double cab auto model, the figure is up to 1,070 kilos. You should be able to take a fraction more if you choose a manual gearbox or an extended cab model, and the figure for the single cab is up to 1,205 kilos. In our driving experience section, we briefed you on this D Max's class competitive 3.5 tonne brake towing capacity, but we noted the reduction which would be necessary to that figure were the load bay to be fully weighted up. That's also an issue with the Ranger and the Hilux though. To these attributes, you might hope that this D Max would offer the most efficient WLTP rated running costs in the class, courtesy of its downsized 1.9 litre diesel power plant and a considerably lighter curb weight too than you'll find with rivals. Well, it does much better than a SsangYong Musso, but with that model using the ancient 2.2 litre EXDI 220 unit, to be frank, that isn't saying very much. Drill down into the detail and you'll find that the actual figures you'll get with this Isuzu pretty much replicate those of a 2.4 litre Toyota Hilux, and they're slightly behind those of a Ford Ranger in 2 litre EcoBlue 170 PS form. To be specific, this double cab D Max Auto manages up to 30.7 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 241 grams per kilometre of CO2. Those are readings you can improve to 33.6 mpg and 220 grams per kilometre with a manual gearbox. You'll probably have preconceptions about the Isuzu D Max, possibly positive ones if you're a farmer or a commercial user who needs something tough, rough and ready, and you've tried a D Max in the past. By and large though, previous versions of this Isuzu have never had the polish, primarily in ritzy looks, cabin design and tarmac drive quality to appeal to the broadest spectrum of the pickup market. But this rejuvenated RG Series D Max just might. It's now got a good deal more pavement presence, and although the interior and the paved surface drive dynamics still aren't quite on a par with its Ford Ranger or Toyota Hilux arch rivals, the gap in those two areas has now closed considerably. Where you might have pause for concern here, though, is with the single engine offering available, smaller in capacity and lesser in torque than rival power plants. Failing you'll feel more acutely if you order your D Max with a manual gearbox. But is that such an issue? This Isuzu still has the same 3.5 tonne towing capacity as its rivals, and even though it's got less power, it might even be quicker point to point because, unlike its key competitors, it's light enough to be driven at passenger car speed limits. For those who want a pickup that most closely resembles an SUV, these arguments may not be sufficient to compensate for a clunkier road-going feel than you'll get in the Ranger or the Hilux. Everyone else shopping in this segment, though, needs to take a fresh look at this Isuzu. Smarter, stronger and safer, it loves work loads. If that's exactly what you want from a pickup, then you'll find it right here.